Hi everyone, this is Daniel here. Today I'll be doing an analysis video on Parktown residents. And why I want to be doing this today is because actually even prior to the announcement of this preview of this project, right, I already have clients, and not one but multiple of them, come tell me that, hey, Daniel, I'm looking to buy this project, and they don't even need to see the show flat. So to me, when I hear this, honestly, I'm quite worried because at this point of time when they tell me this, I'll be thinking to myself, how prepared are you actually? What is the level of information or research that you have put into this that makes you say this with such confidence? Then when I dive a little bit deeper with them, we realize that actually they are lacking. It is purely because, I like the location. It's integrated with MRT, a lot of amenities, and then they think that this is a sure win. But when I share with them my research, then we realize that, there's actually so many things that they potentially missed out on, that they were not aware of. And then that kind of bring them back down to earth a little bit. Alright, so without further ado, let's dive into the analysis. So just some quick brief facts, right? Parktown, everybody knows this is the Tampines North part. So it's a relatively new township, or should I say relatively underdeveloped compared to our Tampines Central, right? So a lot of people, they hear Tampines. Tampines is a very matured area, but actually this is not the Tampines that we really know of, right? This is towards the north part, and in fact, it's got nothing to do with the green, the east-west line, and also even the downtown line, because this one is actually more of the cross island line. Okay, important thing to note that this one is a post-harmonization. So theoretically speaking, when we compare, right, usually the post-harmonization projects are the ones with, on paper, the sizes will look a bit smaller and the PSF will look larger. Usually lah. Okay, but let's dive deeper to see whether that's really the case for this one. Okay, Tampines, so yes, it's outside of Central Region. Okay, some rough pictures, rough graphics of what it looks like. Now, this Parktown Residence is a big project, right? We've got all the big players, CapitaLand, UOL, and even our Singapore Land together in a joint venture for this one. So everybody already knows that it's about almost 1,200 units. So it's a pretty big one. And also that this is a integrated development, and on this portion over here you'll be able to see what does it consist of. So you have your community centers, your hawker centers and everything. So amenities, convenience, everything, definitely it is there. Okay, but to have a context of what this project may really look like and the size of it, right, we need to do some comparisons. Okay, which later I will show more about lah. So location wise, if you take a look here, actually we are pretty close to the Pasir Ris side already, right? Whereas Tampines is actually over here. So we've got our Angsana Primary School over here, which is within 1 kilometer, and Poi Ching at this current point of time is still it's not really 1 kilometers lah. Okay. So with this being said, right, actually this Tampines North cluster or area here, I guess you wouldn't really consider it to be part of the Tampines Central or the so-called the Tampines that everybody is so familiar with, right? But at the same time, I would say that because of the fact that it is actually this cross-island line area here, right, actually it's got its own merits that is different from the Tampines Central mature one that we all are so familiar with. Okay, so at the same time, we want to be a bit aware of our surroundings, right? Because when you are purchasing those stacks that's facing the external, you want to know what you are looking at and potentially what are the premiums that might be involved. So in this case, it's quite straightforward. Okay, most of it, like for example, towards the left here is HDB. Towards the top, you are looking at future residentials that's not really announced yet. Towards your right hand side is same thing, also future residential. Bottom right is HDB, bottom is also HDB, and the bottom left, this one currently it's still a open space. Currently open space, so technically for now still unblocked. but it is actually zoned for school education. So there's a very good chance that in the future, I mean, we don't know when, but most likely this will come to fruition, and then whatever unblocked view here, right, will be gone. So you want to take note of that. If you are purchasing a unit that's facing this direction, and you find that there is a premium if you choose a units here, then definitely you want to avoid that, because eventually when the view comes up and everything, then you would have paid that premium for nothing actually, right? And once again, why am I talking about this? Why I want to do this video? And again, why I want to do this video is really because in the last previous launches, I have seen certain buyers, okay, we potentially face the issue of overpaying. And what do I mean by overpaying is there's two ways in general. One is we are paying too much for the premium of higher floor unit. And another way is when we are overpaying for the premium, the so-called premium stacks. Naturally, when it's better facing or higher floors, there will be a certain premium that the developer will charge. Then the question is how much then will be considered worth it, and how much will be considered overpaying. So I hope to answer this question in this video. Alright, so we've studied the site plan. We know roughly which are the ones that will have which are the stacks that will have the premium. So in general, I categorize it to 4 different types. Okay, the first one, it will naturally be the one facing inside here, which is the Park East facing. So you can see that the distance between the blocks, right, actually is very wide. Very good. Very nice distance. So all the good units, usually they will put inside here. You will find that probably the developers will be putting a significant premium in these areas. Okay, now number 2, it will be the Park West facing, which is over here on the left side. They are also technically facing inwards, right? Just that the block to block distance is not as fantastic as your Park East. But technically still not too bad right? Because in general, when you compare inside facing versus outside facing, that means facing towards the roads, right? Definitely the inward facing will be slightly better. So that's where we will expect the next level of premium. Then the third in terms of ranking, probably the external facing ones, right? Which is all over here. And then the last one probably will be the ones that is being blocked by certain neighbors and all that. So this one is the number 3 and number 4, maybe it's quite similar I would say. Or maybe 4 will be a little bit worse. So blocked by neighbors, for example, let's say over here. Right? Because you see, we are actually being blocked over here. Or the ones facing inside over here. Okay? Not that there's a lot of such units, but these are the ones that we want to potentially look out for. So the main thing still is this. Your Park East will be the highest premium, followed by number 2, the Park West. So if you find that the premium between your number 1 versus number 3 is very big, for example, then you want to pay attention to what is the price gap and what kind of opportunities the price gap potentially can give you. Alright, so whenever we want to analyze a development, the developers' track records and everything, we need to pay attention to who the developers are and what are their portfolio like. Okay, next we'll talk about the development size comparison, as what I mentioned before, because we can be very excited about integrated and everything, but hey, what if the mall aspect actually is not that fantastic, as we have seen in other examples out there, whereby, for example, the shops, right? The shop components are not well managed, for example, right? You have not so nice, not so appealing shops, for example. Then overall, the appeal of the mall is not so good. And also in terms of the size, right? When you walk into a mall where it's large and it's grand, the feel, the impression that you get is very different as well. Okay? So for a quick comparison, these are the ones that I will use for comparison in terms of the size so that you can get a better idea. And it will be a good idea for you to actually go and visit these malls or these developments to have a good idea of what the commercial and the residential components feel like. Because when next time you are living in there, or if you are reselling in the market, the overall feel that you get when you walk into these environments, right, it will play a huge part one. Okay, so these are the ones, right? Woodleigh residences. So for Woodleigh residences, actually, if you look at the size, right, it's almost 300,000 square feet. But if you have been there, actually you realize that maybe you're not able to really feel it is big. In fact, for me, when I walked around there, I felt that actually it's a little bit underwhelming. Although there's quite a number of shops and a lot of things going on there. Right, overall, not too bad lah. It's just that somehow maybe the design is not that fantastic. Okay, residential portion is quite sizable. Then we have our Pasir Ris 8. Commercial component is quite large, 350,000. Okay, and then also Sengkang Grand. Sengkang Grand, you'll find that it is actually, if you've been to Sengkang Grand, you'll find that it's quite easy to see the entire mall in one shot, and it is really not the biggest lah. In fact, it's quite clear cut. And in terms of the commercial aspect, right, you'll find that it is a little bit underwhelming. Okay, not to say that it's bad lah, it's just overall the impression a little bit small lah. And that is already 160,000. So for Parktown, if you do the comparison, right, it's actually the smallest among all of this. In fact, maybe you can say that it's slightly the same as Sengkang Grand lah in terms of the commercial aspect. However, if you were to take a look at the residential, it's actually quite sizable. Now, if you've been to Sengkang Grand, for example, right, you'll notice that actually when you walk around, you feel that this development is quite nice lah to walk around, quite impressive, because the land size already is quite big, and because of the way the landscaping is being done, it has this impressive, grand, and big impression that you get out of it. So Parktown, I can say with quite some confidence that if I were to compare to the Sengkang Grand, right, for Parktown, in this park east side of things, definitely is going to be very nice. It will feel like a theme park kind of thing. It will look and it will feel very nice, like a resort kind of feel as well. Because of the size and the way they do the landscaping is quite wide and landscape kind of a design, right? So it's definitely going to be nice. Park West will be slightly, if you compare them, definitely you'll feel a little bit narrower, a bit smaller. Again, but your Park East is going to be quite nice, quite majestic. So that's the reason why they're also putting a lot of their the more luxury units all around here. Okay, and the reason why I feel that they made the commercial component so little, right, or not so impressive, not so big, right, is because they wanted to focus on the residential side, and then the commercial side of things. Actually, in Tampines, you already have 3 big malls here, so there's really no need to go and over deliver in terms of the commercial aspect for Tampines North, because Central already you have all these malls. So I feel also I agree that what the developers did here was quite strategic and quite good, because everything you need actually already available here. So as in terms of shopping and all that. So for Parktown residences, right, they just give you the basic necessities. Like for example, your hawker center, your NTUC, groceries, everything that you need for daily and daily living and all that. If it is enough, just have it there, is fine. You want to go have your shopping, larger scale kind of stuff, restaurants and all that, you come to Tampines Central. And if you really want to compare the commercial, you can compare again to over here, and you can see that Tampines Mall, Tampines 1 are easily twice the size of Tampines North Commercial. Okay, so before I go into the floor plans, the layout and everything, just want to share a little bit. Okay, so now if you've been analyzing the recent launches, you'll find that the one beders is getting lesser and lesser already. Okay, so I think partly because of the demand for one beders is slowing down, because in 2018, 2017, 2019, there were quite a number of one beders that was launched back then. So with prices going up and then a lot of people already holding on to one beders, so I think that the developers for the near term, they are not going to be releasing so many on the one beders for now. Of course, with Singapore's population, it's kind of shrinking, right? I think that actually next time, long term, maybe in the next 15, 20 years, we might start to see the one beders coming back. More demand already. Okay, so anyway, for this one, you can see that the total number of units are only 73, which makes up only 6%, which I find very interesting because I just did a quick search over here. You can see for Tampines MRT, this area, if you do a one bed search for the rental, right? Actually, not a lot, 11 only. Okay, and one bed plus study here is going to be interesting because I mean at the end of the day it's only 73 units and then it is integrated. So integrated, always the rental is quite good one. Okay, so I think fairly still okay lah if you were to get something here. It's just depending on what price only. Now here's where it gets quite interesting, right? Because two bedders, they are making up 49% of the entire unit mix already. So if I plus earlier the 6%, right? Easily you have 55% already, including the one bedder. So actually quite a significant portion of this unit mix is investment units. In fact, I can even go one step further to say that quite a lot of people nowadays, they are buying three bedders also towards investment one. Right? Why? Because they feel that three bedders in general, the ROI is better than two bedders. And also because three bedders, like the compact, right, actually they are kind of on the smaller side lah, right? If people really want to stay one, probably they will want to buy a 3 premium at least. So I can even say that the 3 compact could be also be a little bit towards the investment. So if I were to factor that in, actually a significant portion is investment. Okay, our 3 premium, also quite a very healthy number, 158, 3 plus study, 115, and then our 4 and 5. Which actually, if you look at the sizes, right, the 5-bed premium, I think this is very interesting because it's almost 1,700 square feet, which is really quite sizable for a post-harmonization project. Which really begs the question, what kind of prices are they going to be launching at? Okay, once again, the reason why I want to be talking about this is this video, right, is because I want you as a buyer to be ready during booking day. Nowadays, during booking day is so stressful. It's a very tense, elevated, it's an environment where the stress level is very high, and when you go in there and then you see your units, your initial selections all being snapped up one by one, how are you going to be feeling inside? So if you are selecting units purely based on, you just want a particular facing and all that, right, then there's a very good chance that you may not be left with this selection at the end of the day. Then the question is this: how are you initially selecting these units in the first place? Are you sure you are very clear of what are the value of these units that you are getting? Are there other potential units that you can consider that are equally as good value that can help you to that you can easily resell in the future as well? So that's why for me, I have a certain framework of how to look at the unit selection that helps you to make a very to have a very clear idea of what are the units that you can go for, what are the price ranges to go for, and if it is beyond that, then it is time to go home, walk away, and wait for something better in the future. To do this, we'll use a case study, And because one of the main developers for Parktown is UOL, right? So we'll use this very recent and relevant example as a case study. So for this one, it goes from 2nd to 17th floor, right? And we see some similarities here where you have a premium and non-premium facing as such, like towards the road and then towards the pool. So 2nd to 17th floor is reasonably similar to Parktown, because Parktown is about 2nd to 13th or 12th floor thereabouts. So to do this analysis, we are comparing two main things. One is, what is the price differential between your lowest and the highest floor? After that, we need to do another step, which is the premium facing versus the non-premium facing. And why is this important? Because when we do this analysis, number one, we are able to see that for Botanic, right, between the lowest to the highest floor, the price could range between 7 to 8%. Okay, so this is, for example, 2nd floor to the 17th floor, it could be a difference of up to 8%. Whether is it facing the road or facing the pool. Then we compare the premium versus non-premium facing. For example, the road versus the pool facing. And this is the results. That means if I compare the 2nd floor road facing versus 2nd floor pool facing, it could be between 4 to 6%. And then if I do the same thing for the high floor comparison, it's about up to 7% difference in the pricing. So is this kind of a price differential okay or not? Is it justifiable or not? Right? Now, if I were to put all this together and then we calculate based on the cheapest two-bedder versus the most expensive two-bedder, we'll find that the difference is actually up to around 13%. So what does this mean? Is that a 2nd floor pool facing, 2nd floor road facing versus a 2nd floor th floor pool facing, it is about up to 13%. So bear in mind, this one is second, let's say 2nd to 17th floor, right? So that's for Botanic. But then for Parktown, it's actually until only 12th, right? So this 13%, right? We could see the same thing, which is for the lowest to the highest for Parktown, it could be around 9 to 13% as well. But bearing in mind that this is actually until 12th floor, 13th floor only, whereas for Botanic is more floors. So if we see if it is 9 to 13%, I think it is still okay, still can close one eye. But if you see that the variance is more than this 13%, then definitely you know that actually the higher floors for Parktown is too expensive already. It will be considered as really on the higher side already. It will be more likely that you are overpaying already. And I show you one example of what I mean by this. Okay, this is an example of pool facing versus barbecue facing. Okay, barbecue facing is over here. Pool facing is over here. Now, if you were to take a look, right, this barbecue facing bought 2021, sold 2024, profit 500,000. Whereas the pool facing also bought 2021, sold 2024, profit difference of $300,000. If you were to compare the PSF difference, it's roughly around 200 thereabouts, 200 plus lah. Okay, so if I were to use this 200 plus divided by 1,003, because the purchase price is 1,003 for the non-premium unit, okay, you will get the difference of roughly around 18%. Okay, 18%, which is quite a significant difference compared to the earlier, let's say, about between 9 to 13%. So 13% really is on the maximum already I would say, on the higher end already. So if you go beyond that, then this is the kind of risk that you are potentially facing, which I want you to avoid for sure. Okay? So actually for Parktown, the main the most number of units, or the main meat of it, probably will be the 2-bedders, right? Because the 2-bedders is easily 50% of the entire. So I'll leave that one to the later part, and I'll talk about I'll basically flip the sequence now. I'll start from the 5-bedroom first. Okay, but before I do that, maybe I'll just go through this thing first, which is how we are doing the price estimates. Parktown is not easy to do the price estimates because it is we are in an environment where prices are high. And then it is integrated, something that is very rare in terms of Tampines. I mean, in general, in Singapore, it's already very rare. But to have it in Tampines, when Tampines is already something that is high demand one, if you are the developer and you are here to make money, you definitely want the price as high as possible. And you know that people are willing to pay for Tampines for whatever reason. Like I told you, I have buyers who want to buy already, even they don't know what is the price, they don't know what's the layout, everything they just know they want to buy already. And that is quite scary actually, right? Okay, so how we can do this price estimate, right, is either you start from the 1-bedders and then you work your way upwards, or you start from the larger units and then work it back downwards to see whether the price matrix does it make sense or not. So in this case, because it's quite difficult, we know that the developers will try and price it as high as possible, but we know that the 5-bedders, for example, it shouldn't be at a price that cannot be absorbed in the market, right? So I thought that it would make more sense to use the 5-bedders first and then we work backwards. So I plotted out all the way from 2000 to 2006. And actually, if you were to go all the way to 2006, right, the prices will start to look a bit ridiculous, easily more than 4.2 million. And 4.2 million for let's say 4.2 million for a 5-bedroom in Tampines. I'm not sure how possible is it for developers to launch at this kind of prices, and whether you can even really resell in the future. So with that said, I am using a rough estimate starting from $2,100 PSF, which is about 3.5 million. And honestly, when I look at this, I also feel it's a little bit ridiculous already. But how I think that is possible is because if they were to be using the recent launches, like for example, let's say they go and use benchmarking from Chuan Park and all that, right? These are all prices that has been transacted easily. The 5-bedders over there can do easily 3.8 to 4+ million, and that is not even integrated. So I think that it is really quite possible for developers here to start from 3.5. So if our 5-bedder starting from is 2.1, then the smaller units definitely is going to be a little bit higher in terms of the starting from. And the max prices that you see here, right, I'm using the variance of what I showed you just now, around up to 13% thereabouts. Okay, so let's go into the analysis. Now you notice that the 5 bedrooms, they are enjoying the nicest views essentially, right, facing the park east. So very nice, it's going to be very nice unblocked views and all that. Only 22 units. Okay, but I think that the size really will be quite large so the quantum is not going to be easy to keep it small. Okay, a quick comparison here between the 5 and the 4. So the 5-bedroom, right, it basically has everything that a 5-bedder family typically will want to have, right? Your living here is quite nice, landscape, all the rooms here, all enjoying the same facing, the nice unblocked view, internal park east facing. And then you have your junior master here with its own attached ensuite. right? And then this 3 will share this bath. Okay, then you have your decent, good size kitchen, the yard, and the home shelter, also very decent size. Okay, it's quite a standard, typical kind of a thing. It's decently spacious. It has everything that you want, everything that you need. Your living, your dining, very nice, very spacious. Okay. Now, as I showed you earlier, what I did was we did a price gap of around 11.9%, because I didn't even put 13% here, because 13% on this will be easily 4+ million, and just want to show you that if 11.9%, it already reached almost 4 mil, which is, as I shared with you just now, the 5-bedder in Treasure and Tampines, right, has not even crossed 3 million yet. So, for you to buy 3.5 now on the lower floor, for you to exit in the future with decent profit, because you buy big, definitely you want to make money easily, 400, 500k, right? So for your next reseller to come, your next buyer to come and pay you 4 million, are there other options, good options, landed, freehold, that they can really consider or not? And if you're talking about entering here, 4 million, yeah, it's not an easy task, huh? Okay, so we go on to the 4-bedroom, which a lot of investors with deeper pockets, they are looking at this, right? So the other thing is this, right? Because as I mentioned, my Treasure and Tampines highest transacted is only 3 mil, not even 3 mil. Your 4-bedder, try not to enter too high. Okay, 4-bedders also, you have a nice selection. So for example, this one over here, it's facing inward, so this one you expect your premium. This one also, you expect some premium. This one, probably you can get a better price, right? So that's where your variance will come in, right? Your so-called 11 to 13% variance could be. That means the cheaper units, you can get it over here. Okay, for the 4-bedder, also quite decent actually, 1335 square feet. 1335 square feet is for post harmonization is definitely not small. Okay, so you have your basically your living over here, dining, also still quite spacious, quite luxurious. Okay, your kitchen, your yard over here, home shelter. It's essentially a slightly smaller version of the 5-bedroom. That means the living, your rooms, everything will be slightly smaller by a little bit. Okay, and of course lacking 1 room lah. But that's basically the main thing. And then of course this one doesn't have the junior and the junior master. So you gotta basically this one, and this one, you'll be sharing this bath. Okay. In terms of functionality wise, it's okay. Just that because the size is quite big, 133 something, the price is going to be not small once again. Okay, and then you have another 2 more stacks over here. The facing is also not exactly the best, not like your Park West one. Okay, not like your Park West ones. So that's where you can expect to potentially get some better price units as well. And also one thing is that actually for this Parktown, right, you notice a lot of the, like for example 4-bedroom, 3-bedroom, there's so many different type of layouts. But actually the main difference is just the entrance, just the foyer area that is different only. So don't have to worry so much about that. Just analyze based on the functionality and the main difference of the sizes. That will be good enough. Okay. So the price analysis for this, you see that if I'm starting from 2001 for the 5-bedder, then logical to say that we can start around 2150 lah for our 4-bedders. Okay. And if that's the case, right, it's starting already around 2.9 million easily already. And I'm gonna be, that means I'm applying the same framework that I shared just now, right? For the lower floor and the not so premium facing, we'll be looking at this kind of prices. Whereas the higher floor with the park east inward facing ones, right, those very nice views and all that, you can go all the way up to 3.2 million. And this is assuming a 11.63% price gap only, not even up to 13 yet. If 13, then probably you can go up to 3.3, 3.4 easily already. Okay? So now the question is this. If you are faced in a situation where you can choose between this high floor and all that, around 3.2, 3.3 million. And if your 5-bedroom, you have a chance to go for something also around, let's say, 3.5, 3.4 million. Which one will be the better buy? Okay, so I don't know lah, but I think based on this, right, because the 5-bedroom will clearly be a better buy, right? So maybe the developers will be pricing it such that the 5-bedroom will be potentially significantly higher than this. That's a potential guess lah. Okay, but anyway, the main point is that if your pricing for the 4-bedder is so close to the 5 already, right, just go for the 5 already. And the 4-bedroom premium, and this one is even bigger. It's almost 1,500 already. It's almost the size of other developments' 5-bedroom as well. Okay, so these two units, the difference again, the foyer. It's just a different configuration, so no main functionality difference one. And then if you were to really compare the rest of the units, actually also not much. But the main difference in terms of the stacks, right, will be the facing. So on the left, you see these two, they are facing they are enjoying the premium facing. Whereas on the right, it's not as good lah, definitely not as good. Mainly it will be these two. Sorry, mainly it's this one. Because the other two is still reasonably not bad. Still quite unblocked. Okay? And for this one, the main difference, right, is that it has the junior. Plus the toilet. So this one also you can argue that actually it's also very similar to the 5-bedroom already. In fact, maybe you can call it a 5-bedroom compact. Okay, because the master bedroom is slightly smaller lah. Okay? And with that, if I were to use the same starting from 2,100 for the low floor, not so premium facing, okay, this one easily with the same 11.63% price variance, it can go up to easily $3.6 million already, which is very, very close. It will overlap with the 5-bedroom price. That means it's more expensive potentially than the lower floor of the 5-bedroom. And in that case, then this one definitely will be the winner already. Sorry, I mean the 5-bedroom will be the winner. Okay. But again, I want to emphasize once again, which is at Treasure and Tampines, the most expensive 4-bedder is actually only around 2.4 million thereabouts. So that is really a very big difference compared to this one, right? Starting from is already almost 2.9 easily. And of course, you're not gonna everybody be buying at 2.9 is probably realistically it will be around 3 lah, thereabouts. Okay, so if you buy 3, you want to exit easily 3.4 thereabouts. Okay, it's just something, it's a gap that is something that is quite difficult to really imagine at this point of time. So this is something that you really have to consider carefully, your exit strategy. Now moving on to the 3-bedroom, so a lot of people will be eyeing this for investments definitely. Now for the compact, you'll realize that the placement of the units, you see this one facing out. This one is facing towards the kind of like the other units, right? Facing out. If you remember, this is the one with the empty plot, potentially the school zone. So this is the one that I will try to avoid first, because you just don't want to be in a situation where when you are reselling, right, and then they are doing construction works and all that. Not fantastic lah for reselling. It could slow your selling process. Okay, the rest will be definitely something I will consider. C1 versus C2. So in general, the the different type of layouts are actually not so much different lah. But for this 3-bedroom C1, it is kind of like a dumbbell layout, if a butterfly layout, right? Because this room is here on the left side. The only issue with this one is that your kitchen, right, and your bath too, has no windows. And if you were to really compare the living rooms, right, you see that, actually, look at this. Actually, for C1, the living room is much better, bigger, longer. So definitely is bigger space one for sure. Okay, just that it comes without the windows for these two portions, which I feel that is really such a pity lah. Because of the fact that it is so efficiently planned, right? It is able to be kept at a small size, but still maintain the size. That means potentially the living and all that is still bigger than this 936, which I think is ridiculous, because 926 means your price will be lower, but you are still getting a bigger unit than or more usable space than 936, and you're paying lesser some more. So the only problem is that the window problem. Okay, it's not the end of the world, but reselling the time definitely will have some challenges lah. Alright, so your C2 versus C3 is really just the 4-year differences. In general, actually you're comparing only two different type of layout for the compact, which is the efficient, the butterfly layout versus the traditional longish layout, which is C2 to C5. Applying the variance of 11.6%, and I start from 2,250. Okay, you can start from 2.08 million all the way to 2.4 million for something that is high floor and so-called better facing. And the better facing is really just this one like that lah. So you have a lot more that is so-called not as good kind of facing. That means the external facings like here, and all that. Okay, so the variance roughly around 300,000 to about, it's roughly around 300,000 thereabouts. But if you compare the price points from the cheapest to the most expensive, it's almost 400 already. Okay, so 320 thereabouts lah. Okay, so once again, it really depends on when you are selecting your unit, right? When you're comparing, like for example, you're looking at this compact one, then you are looking at 2.08 versus a 2.361 million. There's a variance of 11.6%. So if you had the choice, which one would you choose? Okay, for second floor versus highest floor. Now we look at the premium. CP1, 2, and 3. Differences still mainly the foyer area. And this one, the common room is slightly bigger, very negligible lah. So I wouldn't say there is a big difference. Okay. And for these premiums, I mean, they come with this extra, like a yard and a home shelter area kind of thing lah, which the other one didn't really have. Okay, and then for this one, there's a slight difference in terms of the balcony. So that means this one here. Okay, now if you were to compare the pricing again, starting from should be roughly around 2.3 for this one compared to the other one. It's probably around $300,000 difference. And then if we apply the same 11.6%, you can go up to 2.7 million easily. Worth to note now that at Treasure at Tampines, right, the highest for a 3-bedder transacted is only 1.9 million. Okay, so of course I know that this Treasure at Tampines is not exactly the same sort of a product, right? Because it's not very near to amenities, or let's say very near to like your MRT and all that. Okay, but at the end of the day, we still want to be comparing the quantum, the actual amount that people are paying, because this is related to affordability as well when you are reselling in the future. So the gap is rather big as well, 1.9 million, highest transacted. Okay. So for tree bidders, right, I think the strategy I would advise is something like this, because once again we are talking about two things, right? We're talking about the premium between the low to high, and then also the premium versus non-premium. But for this case, there's quite a number of the non-premium facing is quite significant. So for this case, right, we don't want to be paying more than 6% for the difference in terms of the premium versus non-premium. And I give an example here whereby if you're comparing the non-premium and is, for example, selling around 2.3 million, we give a buffer of up to 6%, which will mean that your cap will be around 2.46% for the premium facing. Comparing same floor, if it is anything more than this for the premium facing, right, that means that likely that premium stack, right, will be on the higher side already, will be on the overpriced side of things already. And then you ideally just try to go for the non-premium one. Okay, so when you're comparing, then you can have this as a benchmark to know whether those that are the premium facing are they overpriced, or is it something that you can really consider. And because of the fact that this currently, right, the highest transacted is only 1.9 mil in Treasure of Tampines, and also because of the fact that it is predominantly in OCR kind of area, I think that I would prefer to prioritize the 3 compact versus the 3 premium. So in terms of priority, I'll try to go for the 3 compact first. And I will apply the same strategy here, which is comparing the premiums, right? Compare the premiums, use that as a benchmark to identify which are the better value units, and then you go for those. Okay? Then if you find that the remaining units for the 3 compact are already on the higher side of things, then you shift your attention back to the 3 premium. Because definitely when you're reselling in the future, when you talk about OCR, you have to pay attention to the quantum involved. The cheaper units will definitely be able to be resold faster in the future. Okay, now let's talk about the 2 bedders. Now 2 bedders also, it looks like there's so many different layouts, so many different unit types, different layouts. But let's try to simplify things, right? So 2 bed 1 bath is the smaller, more compact kind of layout, right? Once again, the configuration is actually quite standard. It's just that the foyer, there's a certain differences in the foyer lah. Okay, not a lot of significant differences. Then you want to study the placement of the stacks. So you can see here, you have facing outwards, then you have inwards as well. So you have a good mix of premium and non-premium units. Okay, so for 2 bed 1 bath, this is where I use the 13% variance already lah, right? For this 2250 starting from, and then we go all the way up to 2550, which I think that for a 2 bed 1 bath in OCR, 1.5 million is a bit on the high side, right? Whereas if you can get something 1.3, still not too bad. Okay. Now, if you were to do some rental analysis, and actually quite interesting because it's a little bit difficult to do a rental analysis, right? Because Treasure and Tampines is not very convenient, and there isn't really much other comparisons around. So the next nearest one would be Bedok Residences, relatively new as well and integrated. Okay, so just to do a rough estimate lah, 2-bed 1-bath integrated, you know that integrated usually the demand is really quite good, and then also the rates you can usually try to fetch for higher. So just for the sake of estimation, 4,000, right? So how I'm doing this analysis, right, is we just imagine that we are doing a non-premium plus comparing against a premium unit sort of a pricing. You'll find that the rental yield is roughly between 3.3 to 3.6% lah. And if I were to just base on the cost, the down payment that I'm using for this investment, you're looking at roughly around 11% a year. If I were to factor in interest costs, property tax and all this, probably it will be lesser, maybe roughly around 9% thereabouts. Just for example lah. So 9% a year, just based on the rental alone, I think is quite decent. Okay, 2-bed premium with the extra bathroom. Now your kitchen has a little, it's not like the integrated style already, right? You have it allocated to one corner, which is quite good lah, quite decent. But once again, it's really just the foyer area that is the major difference. Other than that, functionally not a very big difference. So they all will not have windows for the kitchen, which is very common nowadays, and even the bath. Sizing is 6, 7, 8. Okay, same thing. And then also you have one which is the larger type one. So why this is different? Why this is interesting and different is because you notice that the previous ones are all the butterfly layout. But this is the only type that is the traditional kind, the longish, if you would, right? So because of this, then the size becomes slightly bigger lah. Okay, the only upside for this, right, would be the fact that there is a certain USP involved. There's a differentiation here whereby next time when you are reselling, people view easily it's going to be 5, 10, 15, quite a number of units on sale. Whereas this one, it will be the only one. There's only 61 units of this layout, whereby you will be able to stand out in your buyers' minds next time when you're trying to resell. Right? So when you are reselling in the future, speed is always very important as well, because the longer you take to sell, the more cost you potentially will incur. Whether is it your interest costs, whether is it your tax, okay? And also sometimes it is important to take advantage of the so-called highest price at that point in time, because you never know that the pricing would it stay stagnant or even start to dip a little bit when you're reselling, because it's always there's no guarantee one right? So sometimes that speed that in the span of, like, let's say a 2, 3, 4 weeks difference, it could make a difference in terms of your profit being the all-time high or not. And if you were to really compare those few 2-bed plus study, just 2-bed premium just now, actually there's not much difference except for the layout and the size. So if you are able to get something, let's say if the price is similar to the smaller units, then definitely the 721 square feet has a certain advantage. Now, based on the same framework that I've shared, you can start all the way from 1.55 all the way to 1.8 million for the 721 square feet. Okay? And once again, you have all these different facings, the inner ones, the external ones. So you are able to roughly gauge the ones over here are the not so good facing, and then also the lower floors, whereas over here it will be the higher floor, better facing. In general, I want to keep my entry price as low as possible. And why do I say that? So just some quick rental analysis, right? We're going to compare against the 2-bed 1-bath versus 2-bed premium. Using treasures, we can see that the difference in the rent is as such. 3.25 versus 3.6, okay, on average. Actually, you can see that the variance is quite, it can really vary quite a bit. So it's 3.35 all the way to 3.8, and this can be 3.1 to 3.4. Okay, I'm just going to add a little bit of a premium to this Parktown one because after all, it is newer and also integrated, way more convenient, way better choice actually. So I'm just going to assume this one is 4,000 and then this one is 4.35 thousand. And assuming the purchase price, roughly, okay, quite reasonable price point to be expecting. Then you're looking at rental yield of around 3.4 versus 3.26. And if I were to compare based on the potential down payments, it's roughly around 11%. 2-bed 1 bath will be slightly higher. Now, of course, if I were to include the miscellaneous costs and all that, then you'll go slightly lower, probably 9 to 10%, like what I mentioned just now. The next question is, hey, is it better to go for a low floor or is it better to go for a higher floor? Same thing, I'm going to use Treasure as an example, and this is a 2-bed 2-bath example for the rental. Not a lot of difference. And actually, if you were to compare some of the recent, I did some research for other developments, other locations as well, that I'll find that actually the low to high floor, the difference in the rental is not a very big one. Okay, so if I were to use the same finding here, okay, based on the respective price points, the rental yield will be as such. Quite similar. So for the increase in the rental yield still quite similar actually. So low versus high actually comparably same. Now, if I were to use an overall comparison, that means using whatever I shared just now, where we compare the cheapest versus the most expensive option for the 2 bedrooms. Okay, that means 2-bed 1 bath versus 2-bed 2 bath. What would it really look like? Your rental yield could be around 3.6%, your ROE roughly around 12%. Then your 2-bed 2 bath, most expensive, highest floor, most premium view, potentially costing around this. Your ROE will be around 2. Your rental yield will be 2.9 and then ROE around 10. Of course, this is not factoring into the miscellaneous cost and everything. Just compare like that relatively. You will find that actually the 2-bed 1 bath is so much better in terms of the rental investment analysis. So that's the rental side of things. We must also consider in terms of reselling, right? And of course, I'm just using a gross profit example here because we want to compare the potential of the performance in terms of reselling in the future. So low floor versus high floor, and in this case is a 3rd versus a 12th floor, and this is also using Treasure. 6, 7, 8 square feet. In fact, this is quite interesting because the 3rd floor bought at 896, sold at 1.1. The 12th floor also sold at 1.1, but they bought higher, right? Inevitably, you buy higher floor will usually be higher price. So the difference at the end of the day, low floor 80%, high floor 60% ROE. Another example here, 4th floor bought cheaper, right? But in the end, they also have the opportunity or the potential to sell higher price than the high floor. And this time the low floor can hit even up to 100%, while the high floor is only 76%. It's quite a significant difference. So the point of these examples, right, is to show that high floor doesn't always mean that it is the better investment, that it will give you better returns. You have to look at the price relative to the premium that you are buying. That means, yes, high floor, but does the high floor give you significant advantage over the lower floor? Alright, so how should we look at the 2-bedroom? So this is my game plan for the 2 bedrooms, which is that I feel that in whether in business or in terms of reselling a property, right? Differentiation always matters. It always allows you to stand out. So if you are able to stand out, then that's the one that will stick in the consumer's minds first, right? And that's why I will say this: if you are able to get a 721 square feet at a good price, a reasonably good price one, then definitely go for this first, because this will allow you to stand out. You will definitely be able to have a easier time selling compared to the other ones. Okay, but after this is gone, then you go for the cheaper units. That means you try to go for as cheap as possible already, because through the examples that I showed just now, your ROI, your ROE, your rental yield, everything is largely dependent on the price point that you enter. And once again, we will use the same framework, right? Whereby the premium, if it is more than 6%, then don't touch the premium already. Go for the non-premium one. Or if the premium is actually less than 6% more expensive, that means let's say it's only 4 to 5% more expensive. That means the highest floor is 4 to 5% more expensive than the lower floor one. Then go for the higher ones already, the highest one already. Right? Two plus study, 764 square feet for post-harmonization. Relatively big. Okay, if you were to compare to a lot of the pre-harmonization 2 plus study, they are easily 7.3 or maybe 7.4, even up to 7.5 also have, right? But this one is post-harmonization and is 7.6. So I would say that this is on the bigger side, and they are giving you all the good facing also. Okay, so for this one, layout is pretty good. You have your kitchen nicely tucked away. Of course, no windows. Then a sizable study. Can use it as maybe storage or even a makeshift room sort of thing. Definitely doable. My only concern is that because it's so big, that the price could be on the higher side. So that means and also you've seen that the facing are all generally quite good one. So developers might be trying to put a premium on these units. And if they do that, then you could be seeing close to around 1.9 million thereabouts. Bear in mind that our 3-bedder compact starting from is already very close to these prices. So if it was me, definitely I'll be wiping out the 3-bedders. I'll be going for the 3-bedder compact first as compared to the 2-bed plus study high floor good premium. Okay, so hopefully with this analysis, right, you're able to really have a very clear game plan of when you are before you are going for the booking. You need to already have an idea, right, of what are the facings that you are going for, what kind of prices are you ready to enter, and what kind of prices you are ready to not accept, and then wait for other opportunities. There's definitely going to be other or better opportunities out there as compared to if you were going to be paying premium prices unnecessarily. Okay, so for the 1 plus study, you have 73 units. And very interesting is that quite a number of these stacks, right, they only put the 1 plus study on the ground floor. Right, only on the ground floor. So I thought that was really quite interesting. Why they want to do that? In terms of the layout wise, so the typical one, you're gonna see the study like that in between the master and the master bath, whereas you have some variations where the study is tucked away like this, and then this one has no foyer. Okay, and basically you have two different sizing, 463 and your 506 square feet. So one beta, I feel that in terms of investment is always very price sensitive, and if you're looking at one beta new launch nowadays, the pricings tend to be on the higher side, right? Because like if you to compare to your resale competition out there, you're definitely gonna see a much cheaper alternatives lah, definitely, right? So if you were to be buying a OnePlus study, you probably are someone who you're an investor, and then you also want to have something that is totally brand new. But above all, for Parktown, is because you want something that is integrated, that nobody else has in this area. But actually, you are also quite close by to Pasir Ris 8. So that actually, I feel is it takes away that competitive edge that you would have if there's no Pasir Ris 8 in the picture. And Pasir Ris 8 is not a shabby project. And for this one, I'm just using a variance of 8%, and you can see that it would have gone up to 1.26 million. For OnePlus study, I feel that is on the high side. Now let's do a quick comparison analysis for the rental. If I were to look at the studio units in Tampines, Treasure at Tampines is roughly around this price, and if I were to add a premium, maybe we can do up to around 3,004 thereabouts. Rental yield will be roughly, if I base on the 1.09 mil, it's about 3.7%. Based on 1.3 mil, it's about 3.2%. So the return on investment based on your down payment will be roughly around 10+%. So this is not even as good compared to the 2-bed 1-bath, which essentially is a bigger version of OnePlus study lah, right? Actually, so in this case, probably a 2-bed 1-bath would be a better value buy, I would say. And that is probably because of this, right? Because developers, they cannot be underpricing their units, because even though they know that the demand is temporarily waning, they also cannot be underpricing their units such that it kind of spoil the market, right? So in this sense, right, this OnePlus study right now in the current market is quite in a pretty wonky sort of a situation, whereby buyers also they can't really see the main appeal or benefit of purchasing this as a pure investment opportunity. Okay. Alright, so with that, I have come to the end of this analysis video. If you need any clarifications, feel free to reach out. I'll definitely be doing more analysis on upcoming projects. And even I'm looking at even older projects as well. So hit the subscribe button to be updated on these upcoming analysis videos.